Hazbin Hotel has a fairly simple premise. Charlie doesn't like seeing her people be exterminated every year, so she seeks to create an environment where a sinner can be redeemed, so that they may be allowed safe passage into heaven instead of going straight to double hell. By the start of episode 1, she's gotten her hotel up and running, hosts exactly one patron who's making progress slowly,
made to be exploited,
and has, by circumstances outside of her control, landed a meeting with someone from heaven where she aims to show them that her hotel is not a waste of time. Charlie's idea of heaven and its denizens at this point in the show, while being unclear, is still shown to be one of admiration. She wants her people, those who can prove that they are able to follow the road to redemption, to be able to live a peaceful afterlife among the clouds without the threat of extermination because of where they ended up in the afterlife. Her mission is to prove to not only herself, but to heaven, that just because a soul is damned to hell does not mean that they need to stay there. As far as Charlie knows, sinners go to hell because they are not accepted into heaven because of the mistakes they made in their life. Her hotel seeks to make sinners atone for the decisions they made while they were alive by seeking to actively make better decisions in the afterlife. However, whether intentionally or not, by the end of episode 1, Hazbin Hotel undermines this entire premise by having Charlie meet a real angel.
Call me Dickmaster.
Adam.
Do you know who I am? I'm fucking Adam. I'm the original Dick. All you need from me. What do you think you want?
Adam is the first human to ever be let into heaven. This should raise many questions for Charlie, since out the gate he is so clearly out of line with what heaven is conceptualized to be. He's incredibly rude, very arrogant, just a straight up douche to everyone basically, and on top of this, he's the guy who's been leading the yearly exterminations that's the entire purpose for why she has the hotel to begin with, so her people don't have to suffer this fate. And he doesn't even bother trying to hide any of this to Charlie, since he knows nothing will happen to him if he ever lets it slip. Little does he know how right he actually is.
Fucking hilarious!
By having Charlie's first impression of a real angel be Adam of all people, it should cause her brain to be blaring insane alarm bells in her head, since his status as not only an angel, but as one of the people in charge of the exterminations, contradicts her entire mission with the hotel. I mean, think about it. What's the point in trying to redeem sinners when A, Adam is in heaven and clearly doesn't embody any of the traits one would need to be let into heaven, and B, since he is in heaven and is in a position of seeming power, what's the point of sending her own people into heaven after they've been redeemed when Adam and his many loyal exterminators are going to potentially be spawn camping them on arrival? Regardless of anything she learns in episode 6, which again further should discourage her from her mission of trying to peacefully send sinners to heaven, she already has more than enough reason to not follow her dream as she outlined it in episode 1. The show seems to think that people didn't figure out this twist, you know, that the whole system is broken the whole way up since the start, but it flat out overplays its hand in just this one meeting alone. Yet, curiously, Charlie's philosophy and the writing around her character doesn't react to this bombshell at all. And it's really hard to ignore, since she doesn't even seem to be doing it for some kind of character reason. Like, maybe Charlie is so stubborn to see her dream through that she doesn't even think about all these obvious problems that are getting in the way of it. The show spends shockingly little time on this revelation, and what it means for Charlie's character and her dream, jumping into future episodes where she's incredibly excited to have her few guests be rapidly on the road to redemption so that one day they can be in heaven. Yippee! Again, we can speculate as to why, but that would ultimately be fruitless because the show doesn't show much about this topic, and the show doesn't realize, again, that it spoiled the twist already. So we're left wondering until the twist finally comes out in episode 6, and then there's a war coming, so who cares about the hotel anyways, cause we're all gonna die!
Made to be exploited.
And the crazy thing is that the writers didn't have to spoil the twist this way, and they could have had everything play out just like it did in episodes 6, 7, and 8 by just changing this meeting in episode 1. You have to change frighteningly little to make the twist not get spoiled. If the writers wanted to, they could have done one of two things. They could have had Adam just be a more smooth-talking type, the type who's quick to anger when things don't go his way, but is otherwise a very silver-tongued individual. You could have a small hint about his frustration at something, maybe something that Charlie says, like when she insinuates that a sinner can be redeemed, have Adam snap back in a very, uncharacteristic way and then apologize for it, so that Charlie is now being sort of won over by his charm, and Adam leads her on, making him into an even more shitty character when the facade is dropped when he's in heaven arguing against her again. Because if you have Adam continuously be a piece of shit over
I fucking got you! Did you fucking see that?
and over and over again.
How many demons did you kill this year?
Got a good 275 this year, sir.
275? Whoa!
Those are my people. You know that, right?
Oh, yeah. That must suck for you.
It is incredibly hard to ignore that this guy is an angel for not only the audience, but also for Charlie. Or alternatively, you can entirely sidestep the Adam question by, instead of having Adam and Luke be the ones present at the meeting, have it be Emily. Having it be Emily would also be good, since she's someone who is bought into Heaven's false promise. But she's simultaneously someone who is willing to listen to Charlie's idea and let her actually argue her points. She's willing to hear other people's ideas out, and you would have to change a few things, like she would obviously have to know about the exterminations, because that's what the purpose of the meeting is, and the fact that you would have to change the Hell is Forever song to be somewhere else, because that's the song that Adam sings. But this could also lead to some good decisions, like Emily, who is someone who would be willing to listen to Charlie, pushing the idea further up the food chain, leading to a further discussion in episode 6. Emily could be the reason that Charlie's in that room. That way, in episode 1, the audience doesn't have much reason to doubt Heaven's place in the world, since Charlie doesn't have any reason to doubt Emily. I mean, Emily is actually a fucking decent person as far as we know. So having the first angel Charlie meets be not a piece of shit might help her see Heaven in a very positive light still. Then, when she actually goes to Heaven in episode 6, and she's so happy and eager to see all the things in Heaven, it makes so much more sense because she hasn't seen the big shady shitty side. And then, uh-oh, everything's going great when suddenly Adam waltzes into the courtroom scene with loot. You know, that guy we saw at the end of episode 1 saying that he'd make hell pay for killing one of his soldiers? Yeah, now we, the audience, know something that Charlie doesn't. And then as the arguments in the courtroom scene get more and more unhinged, we feel Charlie's frustration because she's met someone who has actually listened to her before. Now it's the first sign of pushback she's actually getting from Heaven. I don't know, maybe it just makes things feel a little bit more earned. Maybe I'm stupid. But regardless, whether the show realizes it or not, by saying the entire system is flat out flawed and that no one knows why anyone gets into Heaven, also completely ruins Charlie's plans of a hotel to redeem sinners. Since if even Heaven doesn't know what makes a soul worthy of getting into their pearly gates, how could Charlie? And somehow, let's say, hypothetically, even if she could know, and she could get them sent to Heaven with no issues whatsoever, what's to stop Heaven from, I don't know, sending them back in a body bag?
Fucking hilarious!
If the show operated on the logic of someone either being a sinner or not, her hotel would fall into the logical middle ground that exists where someone was a former sinner but seeks an afterlife where they've atoned for their sins, or seemingly atoned. The world should operate off of a pass-fail system, not a graded scale where if you get a C, most of you goes to Heaven, but everything below the knees ends up in hell. Under the guise of a pass-fail metric, the hotel has great reason to exist, but the writers have opted to not even let us assume that there's any rhyme or reason to any of this shit by episode 1, and they don't let the character it affects most really reflect on the fact that her dream is kinda built on the assumption that there was logic in the first place. Because how could Charlie's hotel function in a system that doesn't even exist? Like, there's no system! And her dream is fruitless, and she hasn't even realized it. But the audience has, far earlier than she ever is gonna react to it. If season 1 were asking the question of, can a sinner be redeemed? Then the hotel seeks to find an answer. And we can follow the residents of the hotel to get an answer to that question. But the question this season hurries to ask is how little can we make the show revolve around that premise? Since the real questions we ask are, why does nobody know why anyone gets into Heaven? Who are these higher powers that make the decisions on this that we're just now hearing about apparently? Are we kicking the can down the road to pass the responsibility onto higher and higher powers till we run out of characters to blame for why the world is the way it is? And above all, what is the point in having the hotel when you've now learned that Heaven can't be trusted with your people, and your people may not even be sinners to begin with? In conclusion, if Heaven is the metaphorical Chekhov's gun, and the lie that there being any logic to why people end up there is the bullet that the writers have chosen to load into it, the show seems to believe that it fired the bullet well into Act 2, right before its big finale in Act 3 when there's so much going on that the characters can't react to that information. But in reality, the bullet was fired the moment they introduced the gun.
Dickmaster.
Hey, wait a minute, I thought he was a hologram!
This show is fucking ruined! I can't watch this show anymore! Ah! Vivziepop, you killed my family! Rah!